That's okay with you, Richard, isn't it?
Yes, it is. No problem.
Okay. I mean, some individuals don't like the idea, but that's fine. Okay, and I think Richard would prefer to have questions at the end of the talk. And do you all know where the raise your hand symbol is? It's under reactions. If you click on reactions, you'll find there's a symbol there called raise hand. I turn it on, that's what it looks like. Then you can lower the hand after you put it down. That'll indicate that you have a question that you'd like to ask Richard. I suggest that if you all know where the view symbol is up on the top right, I suggest you use the speaker mode right now. Then he'll have essentially a full screen, and he'll be able to have his presentation is looking larger. When he's finished his presentation, you may want to change it from speaker mode to gallery, and then you can see all the people that are in the audience. Okay. And I guess I think we touched on most of the things. I would ask that you all be muted when he gives his presentation. There's nobody else. I have to keep looking for people coming in and let them in. So everybody mute themselves so that there won't be any noise taking place when Richard speaks. As you all know, Richard is Frederick's economic development person, and he's going to talk about a lot of things that will be very interesting for all of us. Excuse me, again, I'm letting somebody else in. Maybe I should just let you go ahead, Richard. It'd be a little distracting with all these things going on, but I think that if you're in speaker mode, then it should be okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Alan. And I just want to say that first, I'm honored to speak to your group this evening, and I was scheduled to do it last month, and Alan was very kind to allow me, because of some scheduling issues on my side, to pivot to this month. So thank you very much, and you're very fortunate to have Alan, arranging all of this, because he does a great job of it. So we're grateful. I do a lot of presentations around the community on economic development. And I want to start by just saying that, economic development, at the end of the day, is all about people and jobs and opportunities for people to work and provide for their families. I don't see economic development as just being about the bricks and mortar buildings or the businesses themselves, but instead the people that are working there and the opportunities it presents for Frederick residents. So I've been very fortunate to be Director of Economic Development for the past 21 years here in the city. So I've seen a lot of changes. I've worked with a lot of businesses. And I'm happy to answer questions if you have any as we're going along through the presentation. I would ask that if you have any hard questions, I'll try to answer those next year at my presentation. Any easy questions I'll answer tonight. How about that? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And we will get started. Hopefully everyone can see my screen at this point.
Yeah, we can.
Great. Well, I think hopefully you all are proud to be here in Frederick. Frederick is a terrific community, and we have a long history and a terrific story, and we're inviting our businesses and our residents to continue to join that story as we move forward. So as we start this, I want to highlight that that there are some economic development trends, and I just want to highlight these. On the pro side of things, we have a growing population in Frederick. We have strong job creation. We have low unemployment. We have positive tax base, high quality of life, and top bond ratings here in the city of Frederick. On the con side of things, trend-wise, workforce continues to be a challenge for a lot of our businesses. Securing enough workers and retraining and providing the right training for our workers continues to be an area where we need to work. Roadway congestion is something that I think everybody seems to have concerns about, and obviously is not just in Frederick, but around this entire region. Transit and mobility, how we move people around other than in privately owned vehicles is a challenge in Frederick. And of course, we know about inflation and housing costs in this area. So these are some areas that, as we work in economic development, that we're constantly trying to solve for as we continue to, grow jobs and grow opportunities here in Frederick. Alan told me that I had about 2 hours to make this presentation, so I'll try to get in under an hour and 55 minutes, if that's all right with you guys. Is that all right?
I didn't say that.
I think my presentation will take about 20 minutes. I think I've told you a little bit about what we do. Obviously our goal here is to provide leadership and resources for businesses to start, locate, and expand here in Frederick. And we do that for a lot of reasons, but the biggest one is obviously, good, well-paying, family-supporting jobs with benefits. That's the most important part about it. This is the team that does it here in the city of Frederick. So I'm the weak link in this team. Mary Ford Nail is our manager who operates and takes care of things on a day-to-day basis. I should point out at this point that although economic development is my background and training, and I run the economic development department, I also oversee the municipal airport, our downtown parking system, and the Weinberg Center for the Arts. So each of those departments, I have strong managers who manage the day-to-day operations. Mary is my manager in economic development who oversees things on a day-to-day basis. But if you ever come into our offices, you might meet Donna or Becky as well. So Frederick is, without a doubt, gaining a lot of recognition nationally, mostly for our quality of life and our recognizable, beautiful historic district and wonderful neighborhoods like Woman's Mill. But we also are getting recognized for our arts, for our business climate, for health, and for our overall quality of operations in terms of the way we manage and operate the city. And I do want to point out that Frederick County is one of only about 35 counties in the United States that holds AAA bond rating. And the city of Frederick holds AA+ bond ratings, which is the highest you can get for a city our size. And I attribute this to the fact that we have had very good leadership over many, many, many years, and managed the resources of the community in a positive direction. So while you read about communities that are bankrupt, or communities that are struggling with their water and sewer systems, or communities that have failing infrastructure, Frederick is fortunate that we're not in that circumstance. The city, of course, continues to be the second largest incorporated city in the state of Maryland, with about 80,000 residents, about 3,700 businesses, around 56,000 jobs here in the city. We're getting more than 2 million visitors a year coming from outside of our area to the city each year. And as I mentioned before, we have AA bond ratings. So I wanted you to see how the city and the county are breaking down in terms of our demographics. With a population of around 80,000 in the city and around 300,000 in the county, both populations are increasing 2% a year, 2 to 3% a year. The city, right now we stand at about 55% white, and the remainder Black, Asian, Hispanic, and other foreign born individuals from other different nationalities. My children go to Frederick High School, and they go to school with children from more than 50 different countries. And Frederick is becoming and is a very diverse place, and that's obviously to the benefit of this region and is one of the things that corporations look for when they're making business investments is they want a diverse workforce in their organization. And they go to places and invest in places that have diverse populations. Additionally, I want to point out that the city's median household income is approaching 80,000, and the county has just topped 100,000. This puts us in a small group of communities across the country that are among the wealthiest in the United States. Howard County, Montgomery County, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Arlington County are all among the wealthiest counties in the United States, and Maryland, I believe, is the wealthiest state in the United States on a per capita basis. That doesn't mean that we don't have individuals who are struggling. There are a lot of Alice households in Frederick. Those are income and they don't have enough income in the household to be able to maintain both their household and all the costs and expenses of living in our area. So when we look at economic development, I just want to point out that obviously there are a whole lot of things that we control and things that we don't control. And a lot of the things that we don't control, we've just gone through a major pandemic. We're in an inflationary period right now. There's supply chain issues, the trends of globalization and outsourcing, labor and things like that, political issues, federal and state funding priorities. All of these things are kind of out of our local control. But I think that Frederick County and Frederick City have done a good job on things that are in our local control, including community development and placemaking, having good solid zoning and land use regulations, having a permitting system that works and allows businesses to invest and realize revenue quickly in their operations. We have tax rates that pay our bills, but that still are not among the highest in the country. We provide quality services and utilities, and we have a wide variety of other services and programs that we provide that make Frederick a quality community to live in. Now, when we talk about the city, right now, the city is at almost 24 square miles. And I don't expect you to be able to see the details in this map. But what I want you to know is that about a third of the city, a little more than a third of the city, is set aside for residential development. About a third is set aside for commercial and employment uses. And then a third is for a wide variety of other things, including institutional uses, downtown, and parks. So we have a pretty balanced community, about a third, and a third, in terms of the way that we look at the community from a land use perspective. And as I mentioned before, we provide incentives to businesses to want to locate here. Some of those incentives are local incentives, some are state incentives, and some are federal incentives. So let me mention that the Golden Mile is an enterprise zone where we're trying to attract developer investment for redeveloping shopping centers and putting in new businesses out there. And in exchange for them investing in that corridor, they potentially get property tax credits, and they can also have income tax credits. We also are part of the federal opportunity zones, which is the light blue area that you see there, where people can reinvest capital gains from one business or property or project into an opportunity zone, and they can shelter their capital gain taxes by investing in an opportunity zone. And finally, of course, we have downtown arts and entertainment, and we have the federally designated hub zone, which is for historically underutilized business areas so that businesses that locate in there, they get some set-asides on federal contracting. Now, I don't know how you can talk about economic development without talking a little bit about housing, because we have to have a resident population that provides workforce to our businesses. So I just wanted to point out here that we're very fortunate to have quality development occurring in the city from a residential side. And I don't normally talk much about residential, but I wanted you to know that we currently have about somewhere between 10 and 11,000 dwelling units that are approved. And last year we approved building permits for, or no, I shouldn't say that it was just last year. Up till now, we've, through many years, approved 4,900 of those building permits, and we have approximately 6,000 remaining in the pipeline. So this means that when the city's building about 400 to 500 new units a year, which is our typical pace, we can continue to sustain that for many years out into the future. And we currently are standing at about 32,000 housing units in the city, with an average household size of about 2.5. About half of them are owner-occupied units. About 40% are renter-occupied, and then you have always, a flux of some vacant properties that are in the for sale market or the for rent market. Our key industries include biotech, professional and technical services, transportation, distribution and logistics, hospitality and tourism, manufacturing, and technology. You'll hear a little bit more about each of these. Presently, here in the city of Frederick, we have about 20 companies that have more than 200 employees, and you can see those here in the city, with Fort Detrick having the largest number, and then going all the way down to Hood College and Warner with around, and Dairy Maid with about a couple hundred. So you can see the smattering of employers here, and on the left side of that of the columns is the public side. These are all users or all companies or organizations that are funded with taxpayer dollars, and then on the right side are the private companies in our community that use non-taxpayer dollars and are privately held. The largest cluster of businesses that we have in Frederick, and the thing that's most interesting, is our biotech cluster. Of course, Fort Detrick and the National Interagency Biodefense Campus at Fort Detrick is very important, as is the Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research. But AstraZeneca represents now the single largest taxpayer in the city and one of our largest employers. Additionally, I should point out that we're incubating new biotech companies all the time. And the Frederick Innovative Technology Center Incorporated, which was started by the city and the county about 15 years ago, is the largest of those organizations. And this is where they're moving. They're currently renovating space at 321 Ballinger Center Drive for a new 20,000 square foot facility in a building that's almost 82,000 square feet. Now I want to walk you through some of the projects and initiatives that are going on in the city. On the north side of the city, you have, coming right up through the middle of this picture here, you have US 15, and this is Monocacy Boulevard and Christopher Crossing here. This is Route 26, and you can see the Walmart and Warman's Mill. I don't in this presentation have anything laid in here on the current project that's across the street from Warman's Mill, which is a residential, primarily a residential project. But if you have questions about that, we can try to see if we can get them answered. One of the ones that I want to mention to you right now that's going on, and if those of you, I was just on Thomas Johnson Drive for a doctor's appointment today, and I drove past Governor's Place, and this is an Osherman Properties project, and they are currently grading out the space for this 50,000 square foot building right here. Over at Riverside Research Park, and I want to point out this is Monocacy Boulevard coming down from Route 26. It comes across the Monocacy and back across the Monocacy here, and then down into the city of Frederick. So Riverside is composed of two major segments. A segment that's owned by St. John's Properties, it's called Riverside Technology Park, and then a segment of the park that's owned by the Matten Company. It's called Riverside Research Park. Let me talk about Riverside Research Park first, because this is where the National Laboratory for Cancer Research is. And I want you to know that why is this important? We've all heard of Lawrence Livermore, and we've all heard of Oak Ridge, and we've all heard of the National Laboratories in New Mexico. Well, Congress elevated the National Cancer Institute's facilities in Frederick to a national laboratory status to elevate the moonshot on cancer, and with the goal of being able to really provide significant advances in the way we treat and the way we prevent cancer. You can see that the Frederick National Laboratory is this white building in your screen. But all of this green area here is land that that Matten has positioned to be developed in the future for laboratory, manufacturing, and office space, hopefully predominantly for the biotech industry. And I also want to point out that they recently constructed a new facility here, including office space, and that is complete now, and it's 98,000 square feet immediately available. Riverside Tech Park, which is owned by St. John's Properties, is all of these low style buildings that you've seen over there. They're very long and low, and they have a who's who of companies in them, including a lot of biotech companies. But recently, they've added about 753,000 square feet of new space, and they are attracting a number of different companies and organizations, including the new Veterans Resource Center, Goodwill, and a number of other companies up there. But I would point out that one of the biggest companies out here, one of the two biggest companies in their facilities here, Precision for Medicine, that occupies an entire this entire building, and Wilcoxon Sensing Technologies, which occupies most of this building here. And then if you continue down Gas House Pike, so this is Riverside Research Park. This is what we were just showing you now. This is the Cancer Institute. But if you keep going east down Gas House Pike, past our golf course and past the Aldi Distribution Center, you're going to see a lot of new ground being broken and development over in this area. The new boundary for the city is out to this area. This was the area that was annexed to the city a few years ago. And it's being developed about 1.6 or 1.7 million square feet of new development that's going to be occurring in there. That'll be a combination of manufacturing, logistics, warehousing, and other industrial uses. As we come a little bit closer into town, as we get into the area around the airport, there are quite a number of different developments that are occurring around the airport currently, including East Park, which is a commercial development, Wren Quarter, which is a housing development, the airport itself, and then River Landing, which is the old Bowman Farm out by I-70. Let me show you a little bit about those. The first is East Park. East Park is 77 acres. It's the old Schley Farm, right at the corner of East Church Street and Schifferstadt Boulevard. It currently is a field. It's not developed yet at this point, but their intent is to develop in 2 different phases this property with industrial flex buildings similar to the ones that you saw in the earlier St. John's property area. And these, I will tell you that many businesses really like these types of businesses, these types of buildings, because these buildings provide flexibility for them to both have office space, warehousing, logistics, all in one building at a very reasonable cost. Rivers Landing, which is off of Bowman Farm Road. Bowman Farm Road is the road that leads to the MVA, where you have to go get your driver's license renewed, and where our sheriff's office is located, our police and sheriff's facilities. And it has some development on it now, but it can be developed. That farm has long been planned to be developed with a number of large buildings, and they can deliver up to 2 million square feet of industrial warehousing and life science type uses. Our airport is expanding, not expanding in the sense that we'll have larger aircraft coming in, and not expanding in the sense that we'll be attracting commercial service to Frederick, but expanding in the sense that we're providing better services to the general aviation public. And additionally, I want to just point out that that Trooper 3, which is part of the Maryland Life Support System, is headquartered at our airport and is the unit that responds, and you read about in the paper when there's car accidents or serious injuries. They are the ones that ferry hurt individuals to Baltimore to the Shock Trauma Center. AOPA, which is the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, has more than 400,000 members worldwide. It's the largest association of pilots and aircraft owners in the world, and they're headquartered at our airport, which we're very proud of. A couple things to note at our airport. We're the second busiest airport in the state of Maryland after BWI. Again, we do not have commercial service. You can't buy a ticket to go somewhere from our airport, but businesses, business people, and people that fly for recreation purposes use our airport instead of going to bigger airports like BWI. And that's what they want. They want general aviation users to use our airport in our area rather than going into the large facilities. Downtown Frederick has quite a lot of different projects that are underway or planned, including the Visitation Academy, which is being renovated, the Downtown Hotel, which has been long planned but has not yet broken ground, the Union Knitting Mills project, which is largely complete now with 2 breweries, a public house, and tech companies, Carroll Creek Park, which of course represents a huge investment and is highly programmed, and a future police headquarters, which will be a world-class facility for them. So let me talk a little bit about Union Knitting Mills. Union Knitting Mills started its life as a fabric and knitting mill for clothing. It is the first factory where women's nylon stockings were produced in the country. So you can thank or blame Frederick for that. The building sat vacant for many years, and The Douglas Development Corporation out of Washington, D.C. purchased the building. It sat vacant still for another 15 years or so. And then they recently have completed an $8 million renovation of the building, including putting in several breweries, tech companies upstairs, businesses like Right at Home, and Public House. Hopefully, at some point, you all have been there or tried it. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Our police headquarters is being put into a building that's 65,000 square feet, and it represents a major consolidation of their services. One of the biggest issues, as you might guess, in the world that we live in today is attracting good candidates for and retaining good candidates for service in policing. It's a very difficult profession. It requires the best of the best. And we want to attract that group of people to Frederick. And so we need to make our facilities world-class and able to provide a safe and good work environment for them to do what they do and for them to protect evidence and people that are incarcerated. So this is not a jail. This is not a prison. This is just offices and evidence storage as well as processing. The city has long been working with a local developer to, and the county, the Tourism Council, the Downtown Frederick Partnership, to collaborate to have a full-service hotel and conference center built in downtown Frederick. It's been a controversial project, but we're inching closer and closer to the point where this project could be fully funded and broken ground. As you might guess, the hospitality industry, the hotel industry, has been hurt hard by COVID, and any hotel that is built today is recovering nicely, but the markets that the debt and equity markets that fund the construction of new hotels, it has not yet returned, and so it's very hard to finance the construction of a new hotel. But we're getting there. This project, however, is underway. This is the old Visitation Convent and Girls Catholic School. It's a beautiful facility, and it's being renovated into 57 standard guest rooms, 11 extended stay rooms. I have written here 11 condominiums, but I believe I read in the paper today it's actually 33 condominiums total, a restaurant and bar, and it's an overall $20 million rehabilitation and new construction project. It'll be a Marriott facility, and it'll open in late 2023. The Golden Mile is coming back. Little by little, there's been a lot of investment in recent years in new construction, renovation, and adaptive reuse on the Golden Mile. The Golden Mile Alliance is our partner, and they've been doing a lot of work to help that. I should point out, I was talking about downtown. The Downtown Frederick Partnership is one of our biggest partners, and they do a great job working with us. Out on the Golden Mile Alliance is our partner, and they do a wonderful job helping promote the programs and trying to help attract new investment and organizations. Some of those include the old Fredericktown Mall, Frederick County Square, and Westside Regional Park. I should point out that the city continues to put investment in putting a regional park in. Frederick County Square lost to Kmart and has been redeveloped with Harbor Freight, Aldi's, Goodwill, and Lidl. District 40 attracted Warehouse Cinema, and they're working on attracting some additional users. This shows you how big that mall is. It's quite a large facility, and we do have a lot of good users in there, but there's a lot of space available and a lot of work that still needs to be done to get that mall back in order. The craft beverage industry has been a big industry. You know, it used to be that in the United States, pretty much everybody drank national brands of beverages. And most of the rest of the world had craft beverages that were kind of unique to every community. And that craft industry has really taken the United States by storm, and we've gotten 7 breweries, 3 distilleries now, you know, with more than 100 employees employed in the industry and leasing significant space in the community. And so this is an industry that's going to continue to help put Frederick on the map, but also make our citizens proud of products that are produced right here, as opposed to you know, buying products that are produced in someone else's community. I'm going to end by saying that we're also proud of the work that we're doing to help underrepresented businesses. The Frederick County Office of Economic Development has put together the Empower program, and we're the primary sponsor of that program. And we're working hard to try and drive innovation by small minority and women-owned businesses right here in Frederick, and we're making headway in that. And our hope is that over time that you would see the representation of ownership of businesses to reflect something closer to the diversity of the community that we live in. Now, I make it sound like my office may be doing all this by ourselves, and the reality is that it's teamwork. There are a lot of organizations participating in helping promote and build the economic base that we have in Frederick, including, I just mentioned, the Frederick County Office of Economic Development, the Chamber of Commerce, the Maryland Department of Commerce, and then our local partners that you can see on this slide. So our team is out beating the sidewalks every day. We're very you know, proactive about trying to be out there, driving solutions and attracting investment to our community. We think we're making some progress in that program, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Richard. I suggest everybody go to the gallery mode now. Richard, you're going to turn off the share screen. Good. If you go to gallery mode, we can see everybody. Who wants to lead off? I have some questions, but I'll let somebody else start if they prefer to do so. Let me start. I was kind of surprised about the big difference in the amount of money that an individual has outside of Frederick compared with Frederick. Where is all that money coming from for $100,000 versus $78,000?
Right. Well, I think what you're seeing in that is the fact that the city is also home to more of the working class individuals who, in many cases, are working the construction jobs, the retail jobs, the you know, there may be multiple wage earners in one house, all helping try to make ends meet. Whereas the county has more single family homes and has fewer of that working, you know, those lower income families. So the city is a more diverse place than the county overall, and we have a wider segment of workers all the way from, you know, the unemployed to the employed.
Thank you. Who's next? I've got a bunch of questions, but I think I should not dominate the situation here. Now here we have a chat. Can you see the chat, Richard?
I can, Mhm. So, Ms. Hallahan has asked, what is the building going up next to Aldi on Gas House Pike? Is it Amazon? No, it's not Amazon, but it is a very, very large building. It's 600,000 square feet. It is still being marketed to prospective tenants. So it's being built by the developer as what they call a spec building, meaning that they're building it on their own dime, believing that they will have a tenant come to the building within the next reasonable period of time. So, you know, these developers, when they believe in a product or they believe in an area, sometimes will on their own nickel build buildings, and that's what's happening here.
I have a slightly,
Mr. Griffin, I have a question for you. My name is Marva Younger.
Hi, Ms. Younger.
Thank you. You mentioned about the visitation hotel will be managed by Marriott. Will there be a ballroom in that venue?
There's going to be a very large dining facility that's in the old chapel. And in addition, there will be a room that can hold up to 250 people. I don't know if they're calling it a ballroom because being that it's a very historic property, it's you know, it's got wood floors and windows and things like that, but it is a very large room that you can hold weddings, you could hold business events, family events in, and they intend to open in that facility, I believe, in October.
October of 23.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Richard, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Tom Huddleston. I had trouble getting on, so I got on a little bit late, and I'm sorry. But I'm just wondering if you can comment on the Food Pro issue that's hit the newspapers, and it looks like they're a little bit unhappy with Frederick, and it looks like Walkersville really may not want them. Any thoughts, or can you comment?
Yeah, well, we strongly believe that businesses need to do what is best for them in terms of their bottom line. And if moving is what makes sense for them, then we absolutely support them doing whatever they need to do in order to continue to grow and to be successful. Obviously, we're so sad to see them leave the city. And my guess is it's going to take some period of time before they actually are able to transition into this new facility. But we have worked very closely with them. They've expanded a number of times. Over the last 20 years, I've worked closely with them on a number of different projects. And so they had wanted to continue expanding, and they had asked for permission to be able to do that on land that was not zoned industrial. And the city planning department, or not planning department, planning commission, I believe, you know, opined that they did not think that that was something that they would be inclined to approve. So, you know, they're looking at the long term for their business, and they know they need to expand. So going to a bigger location makes sense for them. And, you know, we support them doing that. We're sorry to see them go, though.
but it's unfortunate that they, in the paper, said that they felt the city did not want them. I think the wording they used was rather poor.
Yeah, I mean, I think all I can say is that it's they have known as a business for many years that they were landlocked there, and they've tried a number of different options to try and they've maximized the land availability of what they have now. But when you're looking out another 20 or 30 years and they want to be a business that grows, they have to be able to add more warehouses and more parking for their trucks and more of that. And they just, at the end of the day, aren't going to have that space in downtown. So I think they came to the conclusion that they were going to have to move. The city, you know, has a master plan for what they want to see on the east side, and there's mixed use development and other things that they have planned for some of that land. So it's just a situation of where their business interests and the community's interests diverged, I guess.
Catherine has a question.
I have three questions or comments. The first one, after you talked about the large ballroom at the Visitation Hotel and all, has to do with parking for that. Are they going to have on-site parking? The next one has to do with population growth, and they're pursuing it, but it seems to me they're pursuing it too quickly. When you look at those numbers that you showed, it's increased by like a third in just 10 years or so, and the roads aren't keeping up with it. We drive around the area and all you see is homes. And then that relates to the tax base. Our assessments have gone way up. We haven't heard about the rate going down, but with all this new housing, I don't see why the rates can't come down. You made a thing of the pros being the tax base. Well, not at the rate with these assessments. It's going to be a very con for the people living here. And this population growth to me is a con, not a pro.
It sounded like that was more of a statement than a question. I don't.
Yes, in a way.
I'm not sure. You know, I deal with the business side of it and the job side of it, and I'm not really involved in the housing piece of it. So your question about housing growth is more of a question for our elected officials and for our planning department. But what I can say is this. You know, communities that don't grow typically don't maintain a sustainable tax base for long. If you look at communities that grow at a managed pace, you know, can continue to be sustainable for many, many, many years. But if you start to stagnate, or if you're not building housing, and if you're not, and the housing age starts to decline, and the age of the population in that community starts to decline, and the number of businesses in a community starts to decline, then all of a sudden you find the situation that you've seen in other communities where they no longer can afford to maintain their water and their sewer plants. They have a hard time maintaining the parks and things like that. So it is a balance, and I'm not going to disagree that, because I drive on those same roads and I see that same traffic, but I do think that Frederick does a better job than, for example, Northern Virginia and other places that have unbridled growth. We have a managed growth system that really requires developers and others to put in infrastructure as they're developing. So I don't think
I'm not saying we shouldn't have growth. I just think looking at it, it's the rate isn't like this, it's more like this. And it needs to be a little more controlled is my point. And you had the list of pros and cons, and I'm just saying that I consider the rate a con, not the growth itself, but the rate of growth. Understood.
And I encourage any of you that have comments or thoughts like that to communicate them to our elected officials, as they're the ones who ultimately are the ones that set the course for where we're going to be headed in the next 10 or 20 years.
Thank you.
Eileen has a question. You're muted, Eileen. Unmute yourself.
Okay, my question is, if you go down 15 where it becomes 270 and 70 is intersecting, and you're driving south at that area, and you look to the left, you see this big building going up, and like it looks like in the middle of a field. What is it?
You said off of 15 at the intersection?
If you're going south on 15 and just when it's turning in, it's going to be, and 70 is crossing 15.
Yeah, that's right there where 15340 is too. That is part of that's not in the city. That's part of the unincorporated part of the county. That's part of Jefferson Technology Park. And that is a building being built, I think, by Trammell Crow as a spec industrial and warehousing project.
But it's 4 stories. It looks like it's 3 or 4 stories. It's on the east side.
I may not be thinking of the same building as you, so I'm not sure of that particular one. I'll have to look and see.
It doesn't look like industrial. It looks like either a hotel or an apartment building or something like that.
I'm drawing a blank as to where the only building that I'm familiar with that's down there is a large industrial building. I just saw it. It's kind of right at the intersection of 15, 340, 70, and 270 right there. And it's a very, very large manufacturing and warehousing building.
This doesn't look like that. But anyway, I was just wondering what it was.
I'll look into it. If I can send a note back through Alan, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Richard, could you say a few things about that mall area that you showed the picture there? Over the years, there have been a number of places that had planned to go in, and I don't know whatever happened. There's sort of a history there that people may not know about.
Yeah, correct. So the situation with that mall was that the owners, the long ago owners of the mall, and by the way, I want to point out, this is interesting because I study data. I like data. You know, I mentioned to you the largest taxpayer in the city of Frederick today is AstraZeneca, with 700 employees and more than $1 billion invested in that facility at Frederick. It used to be 20 years ago and 25 years ago that the most valuable property and biggest taxpayer in the city of Frederick was the Fredericktown Mall. And it was valued at one point over $50 million. Today, its value is, I think, around $7 or $8 million, $6 or $7 million. It was intended to be torn down. The owner of the mall discontinued the leases to the businesses inside the mall with the intent of tearing them all down, leaving the Home Depot and the Boscovs in place and putting in its place. Initially, the plan was to put in residential and retail. And when that fell through because of the Great Recession, the plan was to build a Walmart, a super Walmart. And at the same time, there was a plan to put a super Walmart on 26. And Walmart decided they didn't need to have 3 Walmarts, I guess, in Frederick, and they decided not to build the one on the Golden Mile. But the owner at that time decided to sell the property again, and a local doctor who grew up on the Golden Mile, Dr. Mohammed Muhyiddin, he's a urologist, and he's lived 40 years in Frederick. I guess he grew up out there. He felt very nostalgic for what the mall used to be. And he and his family purchased the mall property for around $6 or $7 million with the intent that they were going to re-tenant the mall. But what they've learned, of course, is that tenants coming to those spaces want the landlord to spend a lot of money to prepare those spaces before the tenant moves in. And it's a very expensive proposition. Warehouse Cinema was able to come into the old Hoyts area there. So that was a positive thing. Hopefully some of you have been over there to see a movie. It's pretty nice. And they're working with, I don't think I'm talking out of turn here. They're working with an individual who wants to bring another entertainment use into the old Bonton space. But I'm not sure where the lease stands with them right now. They're working on it. You know, the old Terrace Lanes, which was the bowling alley, is going to be torn down in Frederick for housing. And so an individual purchased all of the materials that make up a bowling alley, and I think it's their hope and their intent to try to put that facility in there. But I don't know where the lease is on it right now, so I'm not sure if it's still moving forward or not moving forward. But these are the kinds of things that they're hoping to bring in. So it wouldn't be retail like the old retail. It'd probably be a combination of restaurants and entertainment uses, and things like that.
Thank you. It's a nice summary.
Yep.
I remember the Walmart was supposed to go in there, and obviously 3 is too many.
Well,
for Frederick.
and let me just say that people say, oh yeah, there was a Walmart going in there. And I often say, not just a Walmart, a super Walmart.
Richard, I've got a question on behalf of my wife anyway. Do you know of any interest in coming to Frederick, especially the north side from, say, Trader Joe's or Harris Teeter grocery stores to help Giants sharpen up their operation?
I don't know specifically of any one of those that have signed a deal, but I will say that right at the intersection of Monocacy Boulevard, Christopher's Crossing, and US 15 on the west side of the interstate, there is land that is designated for and planned for retail. And it was always intended for that to be a grocery store anchored retail center. I expect that when Frederick gets to a certain number of new households, that it'll trigger them moving forward with building a grocery store anchored center there. I would think that they would try to bring in a new brand of groceries into Frederick that's not here. So Harris Teeter would be an option. Whole Foods, one of those types of things could be. Everybody wants Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's plays hard to get.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've been to Trader Joe's a number of times, and it seems our closest one now is down in Gaithersburg, I think, next to Rockville, down on Route 29 down there. So anytime friends of ours around here talk, boy, if we only had a Trader Joe's, it really would be nice.
I did just go to a Harris Teeter over the weekend in North Carolina, and I will say that they're quite nice. So
yeah. The one down in Clarksburg is very nice too. That's a good one, big and nice, clean, got everything.
I probably need to add a slide to my presentation about the Brickworks property, but if you've been reading in the paper, the Frederick Brickworks, which is 65 acres right on the outskirts of downtown along I-70, they have been talking about the possibility of having a new grocery store as part of that development as well.
That could be good. Yeah. Okay.
Irene's got another question, but she's muted. Unmute yourself, Irene.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. My understanding is that Kroger's bought Harris Teeter a number of years ago. And I lived in a community before I moved here, which had both Harris Teeter and Kroger's. And my understanding is that they will not build any more Harris Teeters because Kroger's took them over. So what you might get is a Kroger's. We have that new distribution center, which baffles me here on in the southern part of town, because we have no Kroger's here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's another company that we don't have here, but I don't think you'll see a Harris Teeter coming.
Well, that's a good point. Thank you for letting us know that. I've been through that Kroger distribution center, and I have to tell you, it's one of the most remarkable facilities. I don't know if it's operating yet. They're still refining the processes in it, but basically, when that facility comes online, you can go onto your computer and order your groceries from Kroger.com, and they will deliver those groceries to you and it'll all be sourced out of that facility. They have robots that pick it all up and they put it in bags, and then they have truck drivers who drive it out, and they will deliver as far north as the lower part of New Jersey, Philadelphia, Maryland, Virginia Beach, Northern Virginia, and all the way down to Virginia Beach out of that facility. And it is an immense, incredible, unbelievable facility, but it's all going to be, on demand delivery.
Where is that located, Richard? I'm curious.
It's the old Toys R Us warehouse distribution center that you can't really see it from the road. Is you go south on Buckystown Pike, and you pass the area where the theater and that area is.
Westview, Westview.
Past Westview, and as you get down past Westview and you pass where the Thomas's English Muffin Plant is, you go just a little bit further, and on the left there's a driveway, and it goes back to a major facility back there that was Toys R Us. And Kroger bought it, and they're using a company called Ocado, which is out of the UK, which is the robot company that basically manages the technology that makes it all possible.
Interesting. Wow.
And
I've
Frederick,
seen big buildings down back there, but I had no idea what it was, and what Eileen said, that stumped me, but it's good to know.
Yep.
That's amazing.
I have about 5 or 6 more minutes, and then I need to, and I'll have to sign off. Can I answer any other questions for you guys?
Any more breweries or distilleries on the drawing board?
There is a brewery going into the Riverside into one of those new buildings that St. John's Properties has built over there.
Distillery?
Brewery.
Oh, brewery. So
Yeah.
that would bring it up to like 8 breweries or so. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nash, you had a question, but you're muted. I think this will have to be the last question if you get yourself unmuted. Because it is after 8 o'clock and Richard does have to go. Maybe it's stuck. I don't know. But thank you very much, Richard. It was very interesting. I'm glad you're willing to spend this time with us.
No problem at all. I'm quite happy to present to you at any time. I hope that maybe next year we get to do it in person.
Well,
Yeah.
that'd be good. We could fill the clubhouse, I'll bet, by then.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks again.
Thanks, Richard.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Alan again, who organized all of this. He's quite the expert in getting all the details together. So thank you guys.
I'll work hard on it too.
Take care.
Okay.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys. All right.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
What I want to do.
Leave.
I'm disappointed, Tom, we're not getting a Harris Teeter.
Yeah, we are too.
Here
That's the trouble when